the Rockets get off to such a good start, too. You were hoping that would continue, but from there, we weren't sure what to expect after the second quarter. Of course, I know you gave some credit to Miami earlier when we were in the halftime show talking about this game. Turns out the Miami Heat would come away with the win. I'm not sure where, I'm not sure how to feel about this one. It didn't seem like it was ever just out of control. It was just that second quarter, but then it just seemed like they could never really get anything going.
Well, first of all, they could never get the tempo.
Yeah.
They were always fighting, one half step behind. That's number one. And then their shot started to fail them. They only shot 43% for the game, which has been very unusual because Rockets have been shooting the ball extremely well. There was stretches where they got out-hustled, especially around the glass. Mm-hmm. There was too many second-chance shots against their defense.
I was, just looking at different guys, the starting lineup doing a bunch of the work, the bulk of the scoring for sure. So we saw guys have good nights when it comes to the box score. However, just not enough at the end to come away with a win. Let's start with our Fun Can't Lose, though, presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors, because it was fun, like I said, to watch some of these guys put up the numbers they did, like Kevin Durant, who's coming off a 40-point game, having a big milestone that he surpassed, and then he follows that up with 32 against Miami.
Yeah, 32 and 8 assists and 6 rebounds. So he had would I say a great game, or do I say an average game for him? Which one?
Right.
But nevertheless, he's played well. He shot the ball well. He was 12 out of 20 shots. Going down the stretch, I would have, he played 37 minutes, but going down the stretch, I would have loved to see him get a few more shots, because he was shooting the ball well. He missed 3 threes tonight towards the end, and I'm going to tell you why. His legs are tired. Never saw, when he went into his motion, never saw him bend and flex to, get that pure jump shot. And rightfully so. He's been playing a lot of minutes, a lot of great minutes. And they got the ball in his hands, but there was no attack from the Rockets and Kevin the last 3 minutes. They settled for the perimeter game, and they didn't shoot the ball well at all from the three-point line. They were 9 for 36 for 25% from behind the arc. Mm-hmm. You don't win games like that.
Yeah, no, you're right. It did come down to those last few minutes because they were still in it. They were fighting and clawing their way up until about those last couple of minutes.
Right. There was no quit in them.
Yeah.
But, across the board, and rightfully so, they've had some tough games as of late, fight-back games. So we got to accept every now and then them being tired as a unit and losing games.
And the rare day game being thrown in the middle of all that as well. Let's hear from Ime Udoka, who's speaking to the media now. We'll send you back out to Miami.
Closing games has been a big topic of conversation for you all this year. How would you assess the way that you closed this one in the fourth quarter?
I don't think it was the end of the game. I think throughout, they were the tougher team. They kind of put their heads down, shoulders in their chest, and got to the basket way too easy. And so, ending, it was close. Kind of, we battled back twice, but got deficits in the second and third quarter that we got back, made comebacks against. But like I said, 66 points in the paint, individual defense. We didn't stand up tough enough, and like I said, just putting your head down and getting to the basket too easy.
What was Adebayo doing today that made it difficult? He was really aggressive offensively.
We're having some technical difficulties, so we're going to take a break real quick. We'll be right back, though, with more on Rockets postgame.
Rockets postgame on Space City Home Network is brought to you by
Kia player profile. Looking at his game today, 20 points, 11 rebounds, so a double-double for him. He was kind of all over the place.
Which is not abnormal for him. Very active around the glass tonight. I thought he did a good job just on his basic movement and getting himself to become a target a lot offensively. The one thing I really appreciate about his game is that, he's always playing both ends of the court. If say he missed a layup, for instance. He's the first one getting back, trying to get back in transition to match up defensively. Most players will miss a foul shot and they lag back to get into the defensive end of the game, and that's not him whatsoever. So I thought he had a pretty solid all-around game with 20 points, 11 rebounds, and 4 assists.
Yep, for sure. That is his game, as you mentioned. The defense, a big part of it too. As we check out the starting 5 box score here, and I said this earlier, it was just a lot happening for these guys. Reed Shepherd getting his 8th start of the season. He's in there. No Jabari Smith Jr., in case you missed it earlier, rolling his ankle Thursday night. They said he'd be out the rest of this road trip, but hopefully not too much longer. So it was actually
the one thing that we missed with Jabari not being there tonight is his defensive effort that he puts out there on the floor. You know, remember we talked about he can defensively play 4 positions. So tonight they really hurt us around that glass. Which, something that he has prided himself on being, a much better rebounder for the Rockets.
Yeah, for sure. They'll be without him, like I said, hopefully just a few games, couple games. We'll keep you updated, though, right here on the network. All right, let's send you back out to Miami and finish up what Ime was saying to the media after the game.
Ime, closing games has been a big topic of conversation for you all this year. How would you assess the way that you closed this one in the fourth quarter?
I don't think it was the end of the game. I think throughout, they were the tougher team. They kind of put their heads down, shoulders in our chest, and got to the basket way too easy. And so, ending it was close. Kind of we battled back twice, but we got deficits in the second and third quarter that we got back, made comebacks against. But like I said, 66 points in the paint, individual defense. We didn't stand up tough enough, and like I said, just putting your head down and getting to the basket too easy.
What was Adebayo doing today that made it difficult? He was really aggressive offensively.
Yeah, I mean, he made some threes and did what the others did. Him, Larson, Jaquez, kind of take your pick, put their head down, went through our chest and put the ball in the basket.
Coach, what went into some of those defensive rotations? I see you had to call 2 quick timeouts. Was it something that you were seeing as far as not the rotation that you wanted?
Yeah, I mean, one was after a made basket. We just put some subs in the game, and there's going to be cross matches because who they're defending with. You just can't run back to your man, leave guys wide open at the basket for a 3. So some just lack of communication. In the second time out I called, with a new group in that didn't really communicate the matchups. Some others just KYP, rotating the non-shooters and leaving wide open shooters in the corner.
Do you think that the lack of consistency with some of those lineups that you had on the floor led to some of the isolation plays that was played towards the end of the game? Well, not towards the end of the game, but during the game.
I don't know. I would say they went in a lot of zone. And we did a really good job in the second quarter, actually, kind of carving it up and getting to our spots and got a lot of open things. A little bit more in the fourth quarter, not as sharp there, but we also got a lot of wide open looks that we'd missed, 3-point shots. And so Tari got 2 for 7, Reed 4 for 11, Kevin 2 for 8 with some really good looks against the zone. You'll live with those shots, but I don't know if it's lack of continuity as much as, we missed some shots and, their zone was effective at times.
Coach, is it more frustrating when you guys aren't hitting down those open looks, or there was a couple times it felt like either Şengün missed Reed, who was wide open, or somebody else was just missing that open look? What's more frustrating, not being able to have those attempts, attempted, or just not seeing the ball go through the arc?
Yeah, definitely missing them. We had, when you find the ball in the middle of the zone and collapse it, there's kickouts that were open pretty much throughout the game that we missed quite a bit. You're going to live with the shots. Nobody's trying to miss wide open looks, and that's the best look you're going to get, so you live with those.
When you play Miami, you're going to see zone. They play it well, but what besides that makes it tough? Is it just the fact that you just don't see a ton of it, or is there something else about what Spo does that makes it difficult?
No, I think we've seen our fair share throughout the year, and have done really well and got teams out of it. Sometimes it comes down to making and missing shots, and when you have those open looks and you don't knock them down, it seems more effective. But the fact that they commit to it, no doubt, and stay in it, whether you make it or miss, and kind of trying to take you out of your rhythm. And so, for us, scoring wasn't the problem. Even in the first half, I think our defense was very poor, even when we got it tied or close to tied at halftime. But first quarter, giving up 32, we had 28 ourselves. That's enough to score, to win the game if we guard it up to our level.
With their ability to get inside, was that more a function of the penetration allowed or the penetration?
The penetration. They're a team that spreads out and attacks and wants to make you rotate and kick out for threes. And emphasis was, inching out on shooters, guarding one-on-one. But like I said, they put their shoulder down repeatedly and got to the paint much too easy. And so that against them, they're going to play the least amount of pick and rolls, least amount of DHOs in the league, and a lot of isolation and paint touches. That's what they try to do. And so if you don't do a good enough job guarding, you get into rotations and the kickouts come, or you don't help and they get to the rim. And that was the case all night.
We turned to Jeff for some minutes tonight. What were you looking for? What did you see?
Obviously, we got some guys out and didn't want to go, double big as much. I think we didn't love it in the first half, and so went to a smaller lineup with Jeff at the 5 with their guys. And, she can defend some, switch some. I think switching has been good for us, and then, space out with shooting.
Coach, how do you guys move forward and have your guys learn from a game where you shot 67% from the free throw line, had 11 turnovers to their 13 assists in a 10-point game? Really, those freebies and errors was the difference in the margin of scoring. So how do you tell the guys to maybe not repeat a game like this where you guys shot yourselves in the foot?
Yeah, it's been the story a lot of the year, in the possession battle. We felt like in the first half they got way too many offensive rebounds, even they got some late, but, turnovers whenever they're high and teams are scoring out of those, they get in the 115 range like tonight, and it's been one of our Achilles heel all season. So, show the areas where we can improve, get off the ball, not play in the crowd as much, and continue to repeat that and hammer that home, just not sweeping under the rug.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
You may cover